Welcome to Boo You Gore. I am Anetta.
And I'm Jade. And you're here with us. I think we did that a little backwards. But
You're here with us.
I was like, what comes next?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back, guys. I don't know if I segue for today. I don't know what we're doing.
Oh, yes. So I have an interesting case today that was actually brought to my attention from one of my clients only a couple of days ago.
A little request one.
Yeah, like it's sent me. It has sent me.
You've been down a rabbit hole of information.
I've well and truly been down a rabbit hole. There's a lot of stuff that's contradictory, everything that I've looked at. I've tried to go as factual as possible, but some things are saying they're this age, some are saying they're that age. Like it's from the 1900s, it's from 1902.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where obviously records wouldn't have been kept very well.
As extensively as they are these days.
That's it. So I've done my best to be as factual as possible. But today I am telling you the story of the murder of Bertha Schippan from Twitter, South Australia. So another local one.
You know what? We've been doing well.
And it's in the Barossa again. So tomorrow, because I don't have a client till the afternoon, I'm actually going to go and see her grave.
Oh.
Yeah, because...
So you know where it is?
Why not? Yep, I do. I found it this time.
I'm just going to zip my lips shut and listen.
So, on the night of New Year's 1902, Bertha Schippan was found murdered in her family home in Toowoomba, South Australia. The 13-year-old had been stabbed over 40 times and was left to die in her family home. The Schippan family first moved to Toowoomba in 1873 when... I was going to look up how to actually say this guy's name, but I think it's Mathis. It's like Matthew, but with an S instead of a W. It's like Mattis.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just call him Matt. Matty, good old Matty Schippan. Mathis Schippan acquired land through a government lease. He would then go on to purchase the land at the end of the lease in 1888 and would build his family home on the property. Mathis and his wife Joanne would have 7 children and raise them all in the quaint 3-room home. The youngest of these children would be Johanne Elizabeth Schippan, who would be known to her family as Bertha.
That's precious.
Right?
Bertha.
You don't think of Bertha as a child.
Yeah.
If you hear Bertha, you always think of a plus-size old lady. I don't picture like a quaint little Bertha. Like Bertha's a big lady. Bertha has a personality. Bertha makes the best apple pie.
The best apple pie. That is 100%.
So the Schippan family were of Wendish descent, which is quite often confused for Germans, and the Barossa would see many Wendish settlers with a large community of Wends opting for the Barossa Valley town of Ebenezer as their new home. The Wendish were well known for being a superstitious bunch with deep roots in witchcraft, which would put them offside with God-fearing Lutherans. So the Wendish community would very much stick to its own people. So Mathis was a man very quick to anger and was known to fly into a rage really easily. He was a very strict disciplinarian, and although known by everyone, he was not called a friend by anyone. So he's a bit of a cranky pants. A group of youths taunting Mathis one day would find out just how quick he was to anger, and what started off as childish fun would become pretty serious pretty quickly. Mathis responded to the taunting by shooting at the group of youths. A ricocheting bullet struck one of the youths in the leg, and Mathis would be arrested. So he faced the Adelaide Supreme Court on the charges, but they would be dropped and he remained a free man. Mathis would face many allegations and rumours in his time, with one of them being that he'd murdered a hawker near Sedan and had buried his body on the Schippan property. There was plenty of things pointing to the fact that he had done it, but he was never arrested for it. So
God, don't you just love the justice system?
Right? Oh, you wait.
Oh, God.
Johanne was a typical wife of the times, and her husband's word was gospel. She did as she was told, and should always ask his opinion or permission before doing anything. However, emotionally, she was his polar opposite. Joanne was loving, kind, and was a much-loved member of the community. She was well known for her hospitality and her love and care and devotion and support of her 7 children. which wasn't really something that you had a lot of back then. By 1899, most of the older Schippan children had left the home, besides August and Wilhelm. They'd both remained at home and rarely left the property. It's been suggested that they were both uneducated and somewhat mentally disadvantaged. Mary and Bertha were the second born and the youngest sibling, respectively. There was an 11-year age gap between the girls. They both worked at Yalumba Fruit Canning Company in Angaston, with colleagues commenting that they acted more like mother and daughter than siblings. Mary was described as tall, attractive, and quiet. She was well known for being nervous and therefore never left the house at night. Her younger sister Bertha, on the other hand, was a strong-willed, outgoing young lady, and it was very well known that she was by far Martha's favourite child. In 1901, the men who remained at the house were building a new home for the family on the property. So for the time being, the parents and the two daughters would share the original home, and the two brothers who remained in the house would live in one of the sheds on the outside of the property. On December 27th that year, Mathis and Johanne left their cottage to make the 20k trip to the nearby Flaxman Valley. They intended to stay there with friends to see in the new year before returning home on January 2nd. Mary, 24, and Bertha, 13, would stay at Twitter in the family's cottage. At breakfast time on New Year's Day, January 1st, 1902, August and Wilhelm would spend the day shooting. They would return with rabbits, foxes, and even a few parrots. The boys returned home around lunchtime, skinned and cleaned the meat, and Mary put the meat in the safe. The two Schippan boys then headed off to a friend's house and didn't return until much later that evening. Mary and Bertha would spend most of that day at home tending to the farm and the household chores, before Bertha spent time playing with the neighbours in a nearby paddock. The girls had dinner around 7 p.m. and Bertha went to bed. Mary waited on the porch for her brothers to arrive home, and around 8 p.m. they would share some cake, the boys would retire to their bedroom in the nearby shed, and Mary also went to bed around this time. At 10 p.m. that night, Mary would be woken suddenly by a weight pressing on her. She screamed, opened her eyes, and was confronted with a bearded man pressed across her chest. She was then grabbed by the wrist and pulled out of her bed and thrown across her room.
What the?
Yeah.
Okay.
The sounds of Mary screaming and being thrown into the family's sewing machine woke Bertha, who was sharing a bed with Mary at the time, and Bertha and Mary would both scream for their brother Gustav. The stranger repeated, "Shut up or I'll kill you," again and again, and forced Mary out of the room into the kitchen. Mary says this is when she realised he had a knife. She saw the moonlight flash off of the blade. Mary ran outside calling for both her brothers, but leaving the intruder in the room with 14-year-old Bertha. So Mary ran into her brother's makeshift room in the shed and woke them, screaming of an intruder in the home. Instead of running into the home, Gustav ran 1.6 kilometres to the nearest neighbouring home to tell them that they needed help. The neighbour refused to help and told them to report it to the local police, who lived a further kilometre away. How difficult things would have been without phones.
Yeah, and how far everything is. Not
Right?
now. You're like...
And just, oh yeah, I'm going on a casual 1.6k run. So Gustav would return to the Schippan family home, where he would gather Mary and Wilhelm, and they would attend the neighbouring policeman's farm together.
So they just left Bertha up there?
Yep, just took off and left her there. Like, it's a farm, there would have been guns. Mary was 24.
And she just left her in there.
So you would have thought the brothers would have been, well, they were between 24 and 14. You know they've had guns. You know they know how to use them. Why would you leave the property?
That's
You would have
insane.
grabbed a gun and gone straight in to defend your sister, wouldn't you?
You'd think that's where their mind would be.
Right. No, I'm going to run a K and a half.
Let's go get Mary first, but not Bertha.
Yeah,
and then
right.
go.
So at the neighbouring farm, District Constable Lambert lived with his parents, and upon being woken by the Schippan boys, he immediately returned to their home with Mary still in tow. As a group, they entered the house through the kitchen door, lit a lantern, and followed the trails of blood through the kitchen into the girls' bedroom, where they would find young Bertha in her nightgown laying in a pool of blood, with her throat cut.
Oh, God.
Bertha was just 2 weeks shy of her 14th birthday.
Wow.
So she was a bubba.
Hmm.
The Shippans and Constable Lambert would return to the Lambert farm, where his parents would comfort and console the Shippans, while the constable headed to Truro to make the report to get more help. The following morning, Gustav would head to Flaxman Valley to notify their parents what had happened to their youngest child. That morning, Mounted Constable Mowbray would also head to the Twitter home to secure the crime scene. There he would find that the strong-willed Bertha had fought to the very end. Blood was strewn through all 3 rooms of the family home, and she had cuts and wounds literally all over her body. Her ears had been slashed, she was cut across the back of her neck, where she had also been stabbed multiple times. Both her left and right cheeks were slashed, and her hands hands were covered in cuts and scratches. Her throat had been cut from ear to ear, severing her carotid artery. 13-year-old Bertha had fought hard for her life before succumbing to her injuries on her parents' bedroom floor.
Wow.
That's...
So she was running for her life
Yeah.
and defending herself at the same time.
Yep. So the home, there was only 3 rooms in the home. It was literally just like a long rectangle. And it was like kitchen and lounge room, the girl's bedroom, and then the parents' bedroom. And there was blood through the whole entire place. So she fought. Like, she really fought.
Wow. But that's so, like, brutal. Was it aimed at her? That's just wild. If it's random, I know I need to shut up and just keep listening to you, but my mind's already like, what the fuck?
As I was like reading through things, like knowing what we know now and all the stuff that we listen to now, to me, like that's overkill. So automatically to me, that's someone who knows her.
Yeah.
Because it's passionate. Like, it's not just a, hey, I've gone in and just done something. Like, that's a passionate
but
killing. There was no evidence of any successful or attempted rape or molestation. There was no robbery. The motive appeared to be nothing but violence.
That's even more weirder.
Mounted Constable Mowbray was at the scene documenting evidence when Mathis and Joanne would return home about 1 p.m. that day. An older son would also head home from where he was away working once upon hearing the news. Dr. Steele would be called to the property to confirm the cause of death and arrive from Angaston also around 1 p.m. He would stay and help both Mowbray and Constable Rumble with their evidence recording.
Rumble, sorry.
Could you imagine like being a cop and having a name like Rumble? Oh my god, like slight segue. There is a case that I was listening to. It was a morbid case, one of the new ones. And there is a police officer in the story. His name is Loser Lane. And his brother's name was Winner.
What?
And that is a fact. So they'd named the brother Winner, and then they let the daughter name the second boy, and she called him Loser.
And they stuck with it.
Yep, and they stuck with it. And Winner was a dropkick, like drug addict in and out of jail, and Loser was like an awarded police officer.
Wow.
What the I was like, no way. And they're like talking about him. They're like, oh, he goes by Lou. Of course you would. You're not going to be like, hi, I'm Loser.
Yeah.
Side quest.
Oh, you probably lost your place.
Sorry, I got it. During this time, Mathis would be called in to identify his daughter's body, and he did so with zero outward emotion. State Coroner Mr. William Mulligan would arrive that afternoon and immediately set into place an inquest into the girl's death. He would gather evidence, facts, and begin assessing the situation.
Wait, what do you mean he showed normal? Like, he just wasn't affected at all?
Yep. He was like, that's my daughter.
What?
Yep.
That's a little suspicious.
Right. I mean, it's very period correct, I guess. Like, in those days, men were men. Like, they weren't.
I suppose. They wouldn't have broken down crying like, my baby girl.
That's it. He'd just be like,
that's just the children have died.
Gotta dig a hole.
That is a bit
how
brutal,
inconvenient. We don't even have tractors yet.
Correct? Yeah.
Laughing at the situation, not the victim. Due to weather conditions that time of year, Bertha's body was to be buried quickly, as there were no freezers or refrigerators to keep her body preserved. So that night, 2 of the Shippans' neighbours would prepare Bertha's young body to be buried the very next day.
That's a little icky, even overnight.
Right? You'd think the state of her body too. And the neighbours just come in and cleaned her up, and like, that's huge. That's amazing. So Friday, January 3rd, 1902, family and friends would gather at the Shippan family home, where they would sing and mourn over the body of young Bertha. And after a short service, she was laid to rest in Sedan Cemetery. On the very same day that Bertha was buried, police troopers, detectives, and an Aboriginal tracker and sergeant would ascend on Twitter, searching for answers. The investigative force consisted of 15 men. Detective Priest would run the operation and set up his office in the kitchen of the family home. The entire Shippan family would move into the shed so life could continue on their property.
That's actually really, sorry to butt in there, but to have an Aboriginal tracker help, I feel like that's a big...
I think it was pretty common
back then, maybe?
Back then, because I can even remember cases where they'd say they brought in a tracker. It was probably really common practice for a long time.
Especially having not as much suburbia around back then.
Because they were amazing, the stuff. I remember watching something when I was really young, and like, he was walking through the bush and, see that branch there's broken? So that means that someone was here. And things like he'd find a thing of kangaroo poo and be like, no, this kangaroo was disturbed because it didn't do its whole poo. So the person would have been walking through, and then he'd like feel it and do the temperature and be like, right, so they would have walked through 3 hours ago.
Oh my God.
Like, they're amazing. Like,
wow.
Insane the stuff they pick up. It's just
from things like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Crazy. I think probably a very valuable resource.
Like, 100%. And like even nowadays they should use them more, which I highly doubt they do.
Like, especially when you have cases like, do you remember a few years ago when that guy went missing and they found his car and then they didn't find him for weeks and weeks, and eventually they found him and he'd been bitten by a brown snake?
Yeah, that sounds vaguely familiar.
Imagine if they'd had trackers out there when they found his car. They would have found him a lot quicker. Yeah. Because they could have used the trackers. He still would have been dead because he would have been dead by the time anyone knew he was missing.
Yeah, because that's just, They
would have found him.
Yeah. Well, I think there was 2 random kids that went missing recently. There was like one where there's photos of his before and after he went missing, and the after he's like hella disheveled. Yeah. And they're like, what the hell happened to him in the 3 days he was gone?
Yep.
But they could have found him.
Yeah.
And there's that little girl, I can't remember if it was like Easter or something. When she got taken from her tent.
Yeah, and she was somewhere playing with Barbies. Yeah. Someone had taken her. Yeah.
But that was because she was taken from a tent, like camping.
I wonder what happened with that. I don't remember hearing, like, I know they found her.
Yeah, there wasn't really much of an outcome after.
Yeah, something else to look into. So Adelaide City Coroner, Dr. William Smith, came to Twitter as a witness and was asked to aid in identifying bloodstains found on the clothing of both Bertha and her sister Mary. He was followed shortly by 2 solicitors, Mr. J. Sinclair from Adelaide acting for the police, and Mr. A. Foster from Kapunda acting for the Shippans. A jury arrived consisting of 8 men. All of these people, including the Shippan family, would make their way into one of the many sheds on the property where the inquest would begin. How quick did they do things? And so different. Things were so different back then. So journalists, photographers and families with packed picnic baskets would converge on the Shippan property, all waiting for a glimpse or whisper of information about what had happened at the Shippan residence. Toowoomba Township could not handle the overflow of people hoping to get some first-hand information on the crime. The influx of people spilled into Angaston and Sedan, and all overnight lodgings were booked to capacity and overflowing.
Wow. And considering that's like a time that's not, I guess, publicised, because there's no TV,
no just
whatever
scroll
they had
down
back
Facebook
then.
and find out about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
You can't just text your mate and be like, hey, come suss this.
Yeah, that's it. There's cops everywhere in my street. Come have a look. Go check the scanner app. Like, you can't...
Why's the chopper out?
Ghetto birds doing circles again.
Making my children.
I'm a shift worker.
I feel like the page has been all right recently.
And there's a glimpse into our local community page. Oh, shit.
Cats shitting all over the place.
Oh, my God. Oh. What about the one, like, side quest again?
Yeah, I was about to say.
When the guy put up the post about when I was taking the SS to work, and I'd literally started my car. It was a cold morning, so it was, like, lumpy and loud as shit. I get to the end of my street. This guy puts his post on the page instantly. I knew exactly who it was, going on about my loud car, and if I run over his autistic child, there's going to be hell to pay.
It's not like you would have been flying around the corner.
I went, like, I live 3 houses in, like, from the corner. I don't even accelerate from my house to the corner. My car idles
it just would have
from
been
there
loud.
to the corner.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and my loud car is probably safer for your child because they're going to hear it coming. And it was funny, actually, because yesterday we came home and he was out the front doing, like, jumps and tricks on his scooter.
Wait, who was doing tricks on a scooter?
The guy,
man.
Like, yeah.
How old is he?
The one who posted, he's probably 35, 40. The one who posted on the page about my car. Yeah.
Where do we live?
He was on this little, like, scooter and he was, like, jumping and spinning it around and, like, going on about how great it is. And look, I spun it 3 times. And I'm like, yep, wow. You look like someone who would post about a noisy car on a Facebook page.
Continue on.
Right, where am I? Bloodstains. So, Adelaide City Coroner Dr. William Smith came to Twitter as a witness and was asked to aid in identifying bloodstains found on the clothing of both Bertha and her sister Mary. So, Gustav and William would be the first called to speak at the inquest, with Mary and Joanne having to sit in the makeshift kitchen as to not hear the boys' statements. statements. The boys' statements at the inquest varied slightly to the original statement made by Mary on the night. They stated that when they came home from their friends, the girls were already in bed. They said Mary had cut cake for them, but she did not share it with them and was not waiting on the porch for their return. Next would be Dr. Steele. His statement seemed to throw Mary into the spotlight, and they were quite damning. After describing his initial examination of Bertha on the morning of the murder, he said it was his examination of Mary that seemed more newsworthy. He explained he had found strips of fabric near Bertha's bed. These strips of fabric appeared to be missing from Mary's nightclothes. He also noted Mary's unexplained scratches on her legs and arms, her hands, and her upper thighs.
Oh, shit.
Now,
plot twist.
Already at that point, I was like, the version of the story I was told by my client was like the hearsay.
Yeah.
The way the story has travelled through the town all those years. And this stuff that I've found seems to be like the legal, like the real side of it. As soon as I read that, I was like, but Mary was attacked also.
But then you could say, was she? Because it was just her and Bertha who saw this person.
That's it. And it's one of those things where if you listen to it thinking Mary's guilty, this looks terrible.
Yeah.
Because she's got scratches, she's got, why is the fabric there, da da da. But then if you listen to it thinking Mary's not guilty, you can easily explain this. She was also attacked. She was thrown into the sewing machine. The clothing would have been there because it would have torn as she was thrown out of the bed. There's ways to explain it to look bad and ways to explain it to look good. So I guess it would depend what you had in mind. Like if you think she's guilty, bang, there's your evidence.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's a tiny little thing that could twist the story either way.
See, this is why they have a jury of like however many people and not just one.
Exactly, because some people are going to go, yep, that means she's guilty, and some are going to go, hold on, but she was also a victim. So Mathis and Joanne would be called next to speak, but offered no new clues or motives for the attack. So for anyone who's listening who is Indigenous, I'm about to say the name of an Indigenous person who is deceased. However, I don't believe it was his birth name. So just in advance, I don't want to offend anybody because I know you're not supposed to say their name once they've passed.
Really?
Yeah. But I don't believe this would have been his birth name. I believe this would have been his, I don't know how to say it for it to not come across offensive, but this wasn't his Aboriginal name. This was his colonised name. I don't know if colonised is the right word.
To me.
So Tommy King, the Aboriginal tracker, testified he found no signs of tracks of strangers, no signs of tracks or any evidence of strangers present at the property that night. The only tracks he found were consistent with the Schippan family, and the boot prints he found were easily 2 days old. So remembering he's there now on the 3rd of January, so 2 days after the murder.
See, that again points to her being guilty.
Yep. The police at the inquest commented that couldn't be right and swore that Tommy was wrong, but Tommy was and still is one of the most renowned trackers in Australian history. There was also reports that one of the horses Mathis and Joanne had taken to Flaxman's Valley was sweaty in the morning, with people suggesting Mathis himself could have ridden home, committed the crime, and ridden back in time to be at his friend's home in the morning, therefore covering his tracks and creating an alibi. Tommy denied that there was any evidence of this happening. So day 2 of the inquest started at 8 a.m, with Mary Schippan being called to the stand at 10:20. She wore a brown dress and white apron and was strangely sworn in, which is not normal protocol for an inquest. For 4.5 hours, Mary answered every question thrown at her, never wavering and showing very little emotion. Her story stayed true to that given the night of the murder. However, a new piece of evidence was about to be put forward to her, and it caused the biggest media sensation ever seen in South Australian history. Mary revealed that she had been having an affair with a man named Gustav Nitschke. Police solicitor jumped on this as a motive for Mary killing Bertha, as Bertha was the only other person who knew of the affair. She knew of multiple times Mary had had relations with the much older Mr. Nitschke, including in her very own parents' bed. Mr. Nitschke was called forward to testify, and he spoke of having sexual relations with Mary at least 3 times, including that on her parents' bed, while Bertha was in the very next room. In 1902, this was a scandalous revelation and painted poor Mary in a terrible light. Nitschke's evidence, he spoke of laying in bed spooning with Bertha, whilst another man spooned with Mary.
What?
Yep. He said he would often joke about whisking Bertha away to the city with him and making her his wife. He admitted to having sex with Mary on the night her parents left for Flaxman's Valley, just a few days before Bertha's murder, but he had witnesses to prove that he was in Adelaide for work the night she was actually murdered. His boss alibied Nitschke as he had paid him to drive a wagon to Carrington Street, Adelaide on December 31st, and he was confirmed to be at the Carrington Street address with 4 or 5 people on the night of the 31st and did not leave to return to Sedan until January 2nd. Nitschke was engaged to his employer's daughter, Clara. So
Right.
Nitschke's a dog.
But also, that makes me think even more that she's done it. Because it's kind of, he was telling Bertha, he was going to whisk her away and all this.
Yeah.
A little jealous, a little tempered.
Like, how can you say, like, to a 13-year-old girl, oh, I'm going to whisk you away and make you my wife, but I'm going to fuck your sister in the meantime?
Yeah, like, that is a little odd.
What the fuck? The jury retired at 6 p.m. on the second day of the inquest and returned after just 1 hour of deliberation. At 7 p.m. that night, the verdict was read by Coroner Mr. Mulligan. We, the jury, are all of the opinion that Johanne Bertha Elizabeth Schippan met her death on the first night of January 1902 by having her throat cut by Miss Maria Augusta Mary Schippan, while the jury citing jealousy as the motive. The room was silent. Mary was ordered to be arrested and was taken to the Adelaide jail, where she would await trial for murder, a sentence that carried the death penalty by hanging if found guilty.
In our little Adelaide jail near the city?
Yep.
I've been in that room.
So Mary was facing being the second woman hanged in South Australia.
Wait, who was the first?
Her name was Elizabeth Walcott. She poisoned her husband.
Wow.
She was the only woman ever hanged in South Australia.
Wow.
But it turns out, side quest, that I was watching something on Elizabeth Walcott the other day. So she was found guilty for poisoning him with, I think, arsenic. But it turns out that he was prescribed small doses of arsenic for a medical issue that he had.
Yeah.
They think that instead of her actually poisoning him, she was actually just following doctor's orders and giving him the arsenic he was told to have. But it was a wrong decision. You
wrong
don't
dose.
give
or
someone arsenic.
Yeah.
And it ended up killing him when she was actually trying to
do
help
what the
get him
doctor
better.
said.
Yep.
Sounds pretty like nowadays anyway.
Right? And she was hanged for it.
Wow.
Yep.
Because she would have argued to the last day that she didn't do it, probably.
Yeah. She said she was innocent the whole time. She said the only thing she is guilty of was giving him arsenic. Yeah. And they were like, well, yep, you gave him arsenic, so you did.
So
like,
you did it. You poisoned him. Yeah.
Yep. But she was just doing what the doctor told her to do.
Yeah.
But she was a woman. So Joanne embraced Mary and refused the police taking her away. Mary cried and pleaded with her mother that she was innocent, and she swore she did not hurt her sister. On March 6, 1902, the official murder trial would begin, lasting 6 days and providing headline after headline for the media gathered around the Victoria Square courthouse. The papers were filled with story after story of the improper relations Mary had been having with Gustav, and this seemed to be what people focused on more than the actual murder. Bertha's body was exhumed and parcels were removed for further investigation. These parcels were later proven to be Bertha's head. Yeah.
Parcels.
Yeah. So they exhumed her and took her head off. And I couldn't find any evidence of them reburying her head. So she could be there with no noggin. The evidence stacked against Mary was purely circumstantial and by today's standards would never have even been enough to make it to a trial. However, in 1902, the fact that she had had liaisons out of wedlock and with a betrothed man tainted any hope Mary had of looking innocent. However, with no real evidence, she was acquitted of the crime and returned home to her family. The Shippans left Toowoomba and moved to Light Pass, a small community near Nuruyupta. Mathis died in 1911 and Mary and her mother would continue living together in the family home. In 1919, Mary showed signs of having contracted tuberculosis and was moved to Adelaide where she was confined to the consumptive home. She would die there in July of that year. She was buried at Bower Cemetery. Nitschke could not move anywhere in South Australia without being recognised, and he eventually had to leave the state and change his name in order to have any semblance of a normal life. So Mary had always stated that she was innocent and that it was in fact her father who attacked the girls that night. She had spoken of this to police but was told she could not mention it could not mention it as it did not fit the evidence. She swore this until the day she died. Also to be noted is a place called Graystown Corner, where Mr. Grates swears he saw Mattis ride past him at around 4:30 a.m. the morning of January 2nd. A number of men rode from the Shippens farm to the Wegner's property in Flaxman Valley to see if the ride could in fact be done in the time the crime was committed. They proved it definitely could be.
However, that's like in Underbelly.
Yeah, when they're driving they did it at WRX. We can do it in a V8 cop car.
Oh, that's a good show.
They proved it definitely could be. However, the police were not interested. The men found bloodied clothes dumped near a waterhole between the Shippen farm and the Graystown Corner Road. Again, the police weren't interested. In the book To Wit a Tragedy, it's stated that Matthias made a deathbed confession to Pastor Stoll, 1911, and that he marvelled that in the 10 years, police had never once looked in his direction.
What the fuck?
Yep, Roy Shippen, Matthias' grandson, has stated that the family was there at the time of the confession and not one of them batted an eyelid.
Are you serious?
Yep. Matthias was quite happy to let his own daughter hang for his crime.
Oh, now I feel shitty, but I'm glad she didn't get put away.
So, the reason this story came up the other day at the shop was, so I was talking to my client about the Gottfried Hoffman and finding the grave.
Yeah.
And so we just started talking about like little small town mysteries and stuff like that. And she brought this story up because she grew up in Twitter. Friends of hers have brought the property that has the house on it.
Oh, no way.
And when they were doing some renovations to the house, like just tidying it up and making it usable, they found buried in a wall, so a wall that had been cladded and plastered that what wouldn't have been in 1900, a scythe covered in a brown dried substance.
Shut the fuck up.
Right?
Really?
They assumed that it was just rust and put it out in their garden bed and it got moved around the sheds and they've got no idea where it ended up over the years. And they were sitting there talking about it one time and my client said, oh, you know, that was the murder house from 1902. And they're like, fuck off, we found a scythe in the walls. They cannot find it. They've got no idea where it is.
But that would have been so contaminated by that point. But what the fuck?
That, in my opinion, that was absolutely the fucking murder weapon. And if it wasn't the father,
someone in the family hid it.
Yep.
Wow.
I think if it wasn't the father, then it was one of the brothers and they were all in on it. All three of them kept their mouths shut.
He admitted to it, but I feel like if no one batted an eye, they all kind of knew about it.
Yep. The family would have known and Mary would have tried to get the balls to speak up and then was told, no, the evidence doesn't say that, so you can't say anything. So she shut her mouth and would have been told her whole life to shut her mouth, would have been scared to bring it up around her father because she was a woman on her own. She couldn't just move out of home.
Yeah,
she was stuck there. That's it. So she would have had to keep her mouth shut all that time.
Yeah.
Living with the man.
Probably in fear, being like, if he did that to her, is he going to do it to me?
And like Bertha was his favourite.
Yeah. And he still did that.
So I think that he'd heard that she was spooning with this older man and got angry and it was somewhat of an honour killing. And he had the perfect alibi. How insane though. I've got the perfect alibi. I was 20 kilometres away. I can't get there and back overnight. Like
20
how times have changed.
That's wow.
So I completely believe that the father did it. I don't believe Mary did it for a second. But with the way the story's gone over time. So when I was told the story by my client the other day, she said that Mary was arrested and Mary went to lunatic asylum and was there for the rest of her life and died in an asylum. But obviously that would have been the confusion of her being taken to Adelaide and then dying in Adelaide in the home for people with tuberculosis.
Yeah, so she wasn't there the whole time. It was just.
Yeah, so she was completely acquitted, but it shows how the story's changed over time.
It's like Chinese whispers.
That's it, because in Twitter, she was sent to a lunatic asylum and spent her whole life there.
Yeah.
That's not the case at all. But the family moved away, so the locals of Twitter probably wouldn't have known that she came home. So it's funny how things
This is almost like how an urban legend or a myth starts.
That's it.
Because the story just gets so twisted from
Exactly.
something that has actually happened.
Yep.
Gets transformed into something.
And I think that's why I got so excited about it at first, because I was like, she went to an asylum and she was there her whole life and they never let her go and she was innocent. And then everything I was looking up was like, nope, she didn't go to an asylum.
Nope.
I was like, damn it. That could have been so much more exciting.
But what the hell? 100% that was the murder weapon.
Right? So I've asked her to ask them if I can come out and like go to the house and stuff, which will be really cool.
Is it a pretty big like block still? Or...
Not sure. I don't know, but the house is still there. It's in bad repair, but the house where she was dead is still there.
That's insane.
Yeah,
I'm coming with you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's called for.
Right? How fucking cool. Like, it's not cool that the poor girl was killed, but it would explain why. Yeah. But it would explain why there was no robbery, no sexual assault, why it was so passionate.
Why they couldn't find any prints of anyone else other than the family members.
Yep. So it's, I think hands down it was
and
him.
That makes more sense as to why, if there was an attacker or an intruder in there, why they left Bertha in there. She would have been sort of wanting to get help. She got out of there if he was angry at the both of them for being with this Gus.
Yeah.
I just full stuttered. For being with Gus or not being with him, spooning with them, whatever.
Yep.
And so she's legged it and probably thinking, she's the favourite. He's not going to hurt her.
Yeah.
After he threw her through.
And then I almost wonder, like, would she have been next? Like, was he disgusted by both of his daughters?
And that would explain her being thrown out of bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, who...
And then in a panic, didn't want to say it was the dad. Said it was just a random intruder.
And he could have even been going there to kill Mary. And then when Mary was thrown out of bed, that's it. And then when she was thrown out of bed and Bertha put up a fight, he was probably angered by...
that she was...
how dare she? How dare you put up a fight? I'm your father.
I am the man.
That's it. Yep. And then, who knows?
Yeah. Wow. I just can't believe that they're in that house.
Like, it just shows how, like, that was 120 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to have access to these things. Like, as I was reading through, all the names, they're all big Barossa names.
Oh, really?
Like, Nitschke's a common Barossa name. Schippan's not as common. Like, there were...
the families just spread...
Yeah, that's it. And there were other people that were mentioned, like, had small mentions that I didn't bother putting their names in. And they're all common Barossa names.
Wow.
So it'd be very easy to trace back and actually find, like, I could probably find family members, like, in a week. Like, that's how easy
if we really put our
be.
mind to it, we could dig deep. And,
But definitely keen to go check out the house.
Yeah. If I was renovating any house and I found a knife in the walls...
Right.
That is just suspicious to me immediately.
Right. I would, like... Oh, I'd be torn because on one hand I'd want to give it to the cops, but then the other hand I'd want to be like, I've got this cool thing.
I feel like it would make me interested enough into the history of the house.
Yeah.
If I bought a house and found a dried up, obviously she thought it was rust, but if you found that in your walls and you didn't want to give it away, I'd want to know what happened there to be like, oh shit.
And like a scythe, like that, I feel like the injuries that she had, like the cut, that's a fucking...
like a slash.
Yeah. And like the slashes in her back and stuff like that. And
because she would have been running and... Yeah.
And just because Mary said it was a knife doesn't mean it was a knife. She might have just seen the flash off the metal.
Yeah, but you're not... As a female, they weren't the ones hunting and doing a lot of that. She wouldn't maybe have been knowledgeable on, certain knives. I would have just said knife. I don't know what a... I want to look up what a...
That's it.
Because I don't know what it is.
It's, it's crazy. 100% believe that it was the father.
The father, yeah. Wait, what was it called?
I'm dying to see your reaction. A scythe, or look up a sickle. Same thing.
Well, because when I think scythe, I was thinking that's what Death carries around.
It is.
So it was a small one of them. Oh.
It was a...
okay, so I was imagining the right thing.
Yeah, because they used to use them to cut the grass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they have that like long stick, but they would have a handle on them. So you'd hold it with the blade down and hold the handle and
then just
go like that
around.
To cut the grass.
Yeah.
So if he's had it and he's got the handle and it's by the side of him, like she could easily mistake that for a knife.
That would have easily just... how easily he would have cut you.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And they would have been sharp.
Yeah. That's like a giant, what are the barber razors called?
A cutthroat razor.
Yeah, like a cutthroat razor, but bigger. That was a very, I enjoyed that story, well, bit of history.
Yeah.
I love that they're always so close to us.
Right.
But at the same time, maybe sterile.
Well, at least they're all from like 100 years ago, so that's
true.
Good.
In our area, all we've got is, what did I say? Cats pooping on things or men with scooters.
Loud cars.
What has time turned into?
And then there's that strange guy that picks out people's weeds at 2:00 in the morning.
He did a really good job.
So for those wondering about the inside joke, Netta and I live really close to each other. We live like a couple of streets away from each other. And one night I was at their house, we were drinking, and her husband walked us home and decided to stop on the corner of my neighbour's house because it was full of weeds. And at 2:00 in the morning, he was pulling all their weeds out the garden because he thought it looked like shit. Because it did. It was fucking terrible. But could you imagine waking up in the morning, going outside and being like, what the fuck? Someone weeded our front yard.
Yeah. Wow, that was Bertha.
Yep.
That was
Bertha.
That was a pretty insane story for for very local.
I was so excited when I was writing it that I wanted to try and you should see how badly it's written.
Because you were just so into it.
Yeah, I was just typing it so quickly. But I kind of almost wish I had more time on it so I could have done like a big twist reveal at the end.
Yeah, sort of wrote it a bit.
But it was, it was really cool.
That was good because here's me being all like, oh yeah, she fully did it. She killed her sister.
And I'm trying to not give it away and be like, well, wait. But at the same time, I'm like, at the same time, I was like, no, we like Mary.
We like Mary. Now I feel bad, but also that was really good. I like that one.
Yep. Yeah, that was very interesting. You see why I went on the a dive with it and I was so into it. It was really cool. Not cool because a 13-year-old died, that's tragic, but it had so many things.
I was going to say so many pieces to the story.
Yeah. Focus on how bad the justice system was.
And still is.
Yeah. How slow things would have been back then. Anyway, you look at that, unless those boys went into that room, which would explain also why they didn't go in there, because it was their father.
Yeah, they weren't rushed to get an intruder out.
Yeah, whereas if it was a stranger, you probably would have been inclined to grab your gun and run in there.
Yeah, it'd make more sense then.
Yeah. But yeah, being your father,
you wouldn't think he would go that far. It's really sad.
But yeah, running 1.6 Ks to have to get help. You can't just pick your phone up and call someone. All these fit people listening are like, 1.6 Ks is my warm-up.
Yeah, I do that every morning at 5 a.m.
Well, running at 5 a.m. gets you murdered. So
yes.
I'm not unfit, I'm staying safe.
Yeah, exactly. We're just staying alive.
Self-preservation, baby.
I'll do laps of my hallway if I really must.
Oh my god, if I tried that, I'd probably trip over my dog and fucking do my back in.
Well, I live close by, so I'll come rescue you.
Like, come help me. Well, thanks for listening.
I'm gonna say though, that is why we like recommendations, because we both really enjoyed that one. So please give us some more recommendations.
And it was good to do something I'd never heard of before.
That you had to look into to get the full story.
That was fun because I had to look into so many different avenues to try and
get the full story.
Because everything you read was different. So it was like, read everything and then try and the truth somewhere in between sort of thing. So there's so much more I could have put into it, but I just tried to pick the bits
that was sort of main, and that sort of gave it the entered that certain picture of Mary, and then you had to sort of get the truth. I was just gonna say, send us a message. We're pretty active. We post on Instagram just before we release an episode, but we are on there actively looking at people's messages and things. So certainly send us something on that. Give us any recommendations.
Yep.
We will see it.
Instagram and comment on our TikToks and be like, Jade, upload something, bitch.
Which it's just Boo You Gore Podcast. That's on Instagram.
You can even comment on Spotify and Apple and say, hey, you should do this case.
You can. I am starting to look at that a bit more. I don't get notified. I go in there specifically. I know you can comment under each episode.
Yeah, Instagram is probably the best. Comment, give us cool things to do. And if you have something that happened in your family and you want to talk about it, Yeah.
If you found anything weird
Yeah.
in your walls when renovating,
Yeah.
that would be...
Oh my God, yes.
Yes, please tell us that.
Yes.
Even if it's not murder weapons per se, but
Yeah, something
like
cool.
a weird cross or something.
And if it's a jar or a box or something
open
and
it.
it's sealed with wax, don't open it. Don't do it. Put it back where you found it. Put the fucking chipboard up. You can't knock that wall down. Sorry about it. Like, it's got to
That's
stay.
locked and shut in there for a reason.
That's it. If it has bones and teeth in a jar, leave it alone.
I ain't touching that. But yeah, hit that, as Jade will say, hit that bell so you get notified. And I guess we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.